The History of Poetry in Ancient Arabia. Chapter 1. Echoes in the Sands, An Introduction to Ancient Arabian Poetry. Journeying back through the annals of time, we find ourselves immersed in the captivating tapestry of ancient Arabia, a region of immense geographical and cultural significance that has shaped the course of history. This exploration invites us to traverse the expansive deserts, ancient trade routes, and vibrant oases that characterize the Arabian Peninsula, unraveling the rich cultural heritage of a land where nomadic tribes, bustling marketplaces, and poetic traditions converged. Ancient Arabia, a vast and diverse region, unfolds as a geographical mosaic, defined by its distinct topography and climate. Dominated by the Arabian Desert, the peninsula is a vast expanse of arid landscapes, where shifting sands and dunes stretch for miles. The Arabian Peninsula is flanked by the Red Sea to the west and the Arabian Sea to the south, providing access to important maritime trade routes. To the northeast, the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman extend their watery fingers into the heart of the peninsula. Oases, scattered like precious jewels in the vast desert expanse, served as vital hubs for trade and human settlement. Cities such as Mecca and Medina, nestled in the western part of the peninsula, held strategic importance as commercial and cultural centers. The geographical diversity of the region laid the foundation for a unique way of life, influencing the customs, economies, and nomadic traditions that would flourish in ancient Arabia. Nomadic life was intrinsic to ancient Arabia, and Bedouin tribes roamed the deserts, moving in search of grazing lands for their herds. The camel, well adapted to the harsh desert conditions, played a pivotal role in the nomadic lifestyle, serving as both a mode of transportation and a source of sustenance. These nomadic tribes traversed ancient caravan routes, connecting distant regions and fostering trade, cultural exchange, and alliances. Caravans not only facilitated the exchange of goods but also became conduits for the transmission of ideas, beliefs, and artistic expressions. The interplay of nomadic life and caravan trade routes created a dynamic cultural landscape, where diverse influences converged and contributed to the rich tapestry of ancient Arabian civilization. The Arabian Peninsula's strategic location at the crossroads of Asia, Africa, and Europe made it a hub for trade. Cities like Mecca, situated along the major trade route known as the incense route, thrived as bustling marketplaces where goods from distant lands exchanged hands. Incense, spices, precious metals, and textiles were among the commodities that traversed the desert on camelback, connecting the Arabian Peninsula with the broader ancient world. The economic prosperity derived from trade not only fueled the growth of urban centers but also contributed to the development of a sophisticated market economy. Mecca, particularly, emerged as a commercial and religious center, hosting the annual pilgrimage known as the Hajj, which attracted merchants, pilgrims, and scholars from various corners of the Arabian Peninsula and beyond. Mecca, the spiritual heart of ancient Arabia, housed the revered Kaaba, a cubic structure considered sacred in pre-Islamic Arabian traditions. Surrounded by the vast expanse of the Masjid al-Haram, the Kaaba served as a focal point for religious rites and rituals. Pilgrims from different tribes would converge upon Mecca to perform rituals associated with the Kaaba, fostering a sense of unity and shared religious identity. Religious practices in ancient Arabia were deeply rooted in polytheism, with each tribe venerating its own set of deities. The black stone, embedded in the corner of the Kaaba, was a significant object of veneration. The religious diversity of the Arabian Peninsula, with its multitude of tribes and their distinct beliefs, laid the groundwork for the cultural and religious transformations that would unfold in later centuries. A vibrant oral tradition was at the heart of ancient Arabian culture, with poetry and storytelling serving as the primary means of communication, entertainment, and historical preservation. Bedouin poets, known as shu'ara, held esteemed positions in society, weaving intricate verses that celebrated the exploits of tribes, expressed love and longing, and conveyed the wisdom of the desert. Poetry was not merely an artistic pursuit but a practical skill, vital for social interaction and diplomacy. Poets held the power to sway opinions, immortalize heroic deeds, and articulate the ethos of their tribes. The richness of the Arabic language found its expression in the rhythmic cadence of poetic verses, creating an enduring legacy that would later bloom into the golden age of Islamic literature. Pre-Islamic Arabia is often referred to as the Age of Ignorance, Jahiliyyah, a term employed to describe the period before the advent of Islam. It signifies a time when tribal rivalries, blood feuds, and social inequalities prevailed. The nomadic way of life, deeply embedded in the harsh desert environment, fostered a code of honor and a strong sense of tribal loyalty. This era also witnessed a robust system of oral poetry competitions, where poets showcased their eloquence, wit, and command of language. The poetry of this period reflects the social, cultural, and religious milieu of ancient Arabia, capturing the ethos of a society on the cusp of profound transformation. Ancient Arabian society was organized along tribal lines, with tribes further divided into clans. Tribal affiliations played a central role in determining social status, access to resources, and political alliances. Loyalty to one's tribe was paramount, and conflicts often arose over matters of honor, territory, or resources. The Arabian Peninsula lacked a centralized political authority, and governance was decentralized, with each tribe or confederation managing its own affairs. Tribal leaders, known as sheikhs, held significant influence, and decisions were often made through a consultative process within tribal councils. 8. The status of women. The status of women in ancient Arabia varied across different tribes, and women's roles were influenced by tribal customs and economic considerations. In some tribes, women enjoyed a degree of autonomy and economic independence, particularly in nomadic communities where their contributions to pastoral life were valued. However, the socio-cultural landscape of ancient Arabia was marked by patriarchal norms, and women's rights were often constrained by tribal traditions. Marriage customs, inheritance laws, and social expectations reflected the prevailing gender dynamics of the time. 9. The legacy of ancient Arabia. As we conclude our exploration of the geographical and cultural landscape of ancient Arabia, we recognize its enduring legacy. The oral traditions of poetry and storytelling, the vibrant trade routes that connected civilizations, the sacred pilgrimage sites, and the nomadic way of life all laid the foundations for the cultural, religious, and linguistic developments that would unfold in subsequent centuries. Stepping into the sands of ancient Arabia, we encounter a world where the spoken word held profound significance, where nomadic tribes traversed the vast deserts, and where poetry became the heartbeat of society. In this exploration, we delve into the significance of oral traditions, the nomadic way of life, and the early forms of poetic expression that shaped the cultural landscape of ancient Arabia, laying the groundwork for a rich and enduring literary heritage. Oral traditions were the lifeblood of ancient Arabian society, forming an intricate tapestry of narratives, histories, and cultural expressions. In the absence of a written script, the spoken word became the primary means of communication and knowledge transmission. This reliance on orality fostered a deeply communal experience, where stories, myths, and historical accounts were passed down from generation to generation through the art of storytelling. In the vast expanse of the Arabian Peninsula, where nomadic tribes roamed, oral traditions served as repositories of collective memory. Elders, storytellers, and poets played pivotal roles in preserving the identity, wisdom, and ethos of their tribes. These oral narratives became foundational to the social fabric, reinforcing tribal bonds, instilling moral values, and providing a sense of continuity in the face of the ever-shifting sands of time. The nomadic way of life in ancient Arabia was intimately intertwined with the rhythms of the desert. Nomadic tribes, like the Bedouins, traversed the arid landscapes in search of grazing lands for their herds, following ancient caravan routes. The desert, with its vast expanses and stark beauty, became both a harsh crucible and a wellspring of inspiration for the poetic expression that would flourish in this arid terrain. The nomadic lifestyle fostered a profound connection to nature, and this connection found expression in the poetry that emerged from the desert. The camel, a resilient and indispensable companion of the Bedouins, became a symbol of endurance and survival in their verses. The vastness of the desert, the undulating dunes, and the celestial bodies that adorned the night sky all found a place in the verses of poets, weaving a lyrical tapestry that mirrored the nomads' intimate relationship with their surroundings. Poetry in ancient Arabia was not confined to elite circles or formal occasions, it permeated the very fabric of everyday life. Bedouin poets, known as shu'ara, held esteemed positions within their tribes, embodying the role of cultural guardians and storytellers. Their verses were recited around campfires, in marketplaces, and during communal gatherings, creating a shared experience that transcended the boundaries of individual tribes. The poet, often belonging to a specific tribe, carried the responsibility of preserving the genealogy, history, and values of their people. Through the oral transmission of poetry, the collective memory of tribes found resonance in the hearts and minds of the community. The poet's eloquence, wit, and mastery of language became vital tools in navigating the complexities of tribal relations, mediating conflicts, and celebrating the heroic deeds of the past. One of the most remarkable manifestations of early poetic expression in ancient Arabia is the Mu'allaqat, a collection of 7 pre-Islamic poems that were considered so exceptional that they were hung on the walls of the Kaaba in Mecca, an honor that led to their designation as the suspended odes. Composed by different poets from various tribes, the Mu'allaqat encompass a diverse range of themes, from love and war to the beauty of the desert. Imru al-Qais, known for his poignant verses, captured the longing of the desert with lines such as, "The winds have called you, so set forth. The birds have announced your coming, so come." These poetic masterpieces not only exemplify the linguistic and artistic prowess of the ancient Arab poets but also serve as windows into the socio-cultural dynamics, values, and aspirations of the nomadic tribes. The Mu'allaqat embody the spirit of a people who found solace, inspiration, and cultural continuity in the rhythmic beauty of poetry. Beyond the grandeur of the Mu'allaqat, there existed another form of poetry known as Nabati, a more vernacular and accessible expression of everyday life. Nabati poetry, often composed by tribal poets and common people, bridged the gap between the elite literary traditions and the oral vernacular. This form of poetry delved into the mundane aspects of nomadic life, celebrating the beauty of nature, recounting the tales of everyday heroes, and expressing the joys and sorrows of common people. It was a reflection of the shared experiences and collective consciousness of the tribes, creating a sense of unity and identity through the simple yet profound language of verse. Amidst the arid landscapes of the Arabian Peninsula, the poets of ancient Arabia found fertile ground for the blossoming of ghazal poetry, a form that would later flourish in Persian literature. The ghazal, rooted in the themes of love and longing, became a quintessential expression of the human experience, transcending the boundaries of tribal affiliations. Ghazal poetry in ancient Arabia often centered around themes of unrequited love, the beauty of the beloved, and the metaphorical journey through the desert as a reflection of the tumultuous path of love. These poetic expressions, characterized by intricate meters and eloquent metaphors, laid the foundation for the later development of ghazal traditions in Persian, Urdu, and other literary cultures. Embarking on a journey through the shifting sands of ancient Arabia, we encounter a poetic tradition shaped by the harsh desert environment, the intricate fabric of tribal structures, and the profound significance of language. In this exploration, we unravel the key elements that mold the poetry of ancient Arabia, crafting a cultural and literary landscape as resilient and enduring as the nomadic tribes that traversed its vast expanse. The poetry of ancient Arabia bears the indelible imprint of its formidable natural environment, the expansive and unforgiving Arabian desert. The desert, with its relentless sun, shifting sands, and extreme temperatures, became a crucible of endurance and resilience for the nomadic tribes that called it home. It is within this stark and challenging landscape that the poetic spirit of ancient Arabia found its roots. Nomadic life in the desert demanded an acute understanding of nature's rhythms, an intimate connection with the celestial bodies guiding the way, and a deep appreciation for the scarce resources that sustained life. The poets of ancient Arabia, often Bedouins, drew inspiration from the very fabric of the desert, weaving its harsh beauty, starkness, and vastness into the verses that celebrated the nomadic way of life. The camel, aptly named the ship of the desert, emerged as a central figure in the poetry of ancient Arabia. This resilient and indispensable creature, perfectly adapted to the harsh conditions of the arid landscape, played a multifaceted role in the nomadic way of life. Camels were not merely beasts of burden, they were companions, a source of sustenance, and a symbol of survival in the face of adversity. Poets extolled the virtues of their camels in verses that celebrated their endurance during long journeys across the desert, their loyalty to their masters, and their ability to navigate the vast and treacherous dunes. Through these poetic expressions, camels became living metaphors, embodying the spirit of resilience, adaptability, and endurance cherished by the nomadic tribes. Tribal structures formed the social fabric of ancient Arabian society, providing a framework for identity, governance, and cultural expression. The tribes, each with its distinct lineage, customs, and territories, played a pivotal role in shaping the poetry of the region. The intricate relationships among tribes, the dynamics of honor and loyalty, and the complexities of tribal feuds found resonance in the verses of the poets. Tribal identity was a source of pride and a central theme in much of the poetry. Poets often composed verses that praised the noble lineage of their tribes, celebrated the heroic deeds of their ancestors, and articulated the virtues that defined their tribal character. The poet, as a cultural guardian, played a crucial role in preserving and transmitting the collective memory of the tribe through the medium of verse. The concept of honor, held paramount importance in ancient Arabian society, influencing both individual and collective behaviors. Poets often wove themes of honor into their verses, portraying the virtues of bravery, integrity, and loyalty as essential components of tribal identity. A poet's words could elevate the honor of a tribe or, conversely, cast a shadow on its reputation. Blood feuds, fueled by a sense of honor and vengeance, were an intricate aspect of tribal life. Poetic expressions served as both a catalyst and a reflection of these conflicts. The poets, functioning as mediators and arbiters through their verses, sought to navigate the delicate balance between preserving honor and mitigating the destructive consequences of intertribal strife. In the arid expanses of ancient Arabia, where the written word was yet to find its place, language emerged as a powerful and dynamic art form. Arabic, with its rich linguistic heritage, intricate patterns, and nuanced expressions, became the vessel through which the poetic spirit of the region found its most eloquent expression. The poets of ancient Arabia were masters of language, wielding words with precision and artistry. The beauty of the Arabic language was not merely a tool for communication but a source of aesthetic pleasure. Poets reveled in the intricacies of linguistic expression, experimenting with rhyme, meter, and metaphor to craft verses that resonated with both intellectual depth and emotional resonance. The mastery of language elevated the status of poets, placing them at the forefront of cultural and intellectual life. In the absence of a written script, oral poetry in ancient Arabia relied heavily on the power of metaphor and symbolism. Poets used vivid imagery, allegory, and metaphorical language to convey complex emotions, tell tales of heroic exploits, and articulate the challenges of nomadic life. The desert itself became a canvas for poetic expression, with its features, dunes, mirages, and the scorching sun assuming symbolic significance. Camels, as mentioned earlier, were not merely subjects of praise, they became metaphors for enduring love, loyalty, and steadfastness. The vastness of the desert, symbolizing both the challenges and opportunities of nomadic life, found its reflection in verses that spoke of the poetic journey as a voyage through the ever-changing landscape of existence. The mu'allaqat, also known as the suspended odes, stand as exemplars of the poetic mastery that flourished in ancient Arabia. Composed by different poets from various tribes, these 7 pre-Islamic poems were deemed so exceptional that they were suspended on the walls of the Kaaba in Mecca, an honor bestowed upon their linguistic and artistic brilliance. The mu'allaqat, while diverse in themes and expressions, collectively embody the core elements that shaped the poetry of ancient Arabia. They speak of the challenges of nomadic life, the beauty of the desert, the honor of tribal lineage, and the intricacies of love and longing. These masterpieces offer a glimpse into the linguistic virtuosity, cultural richness, and profound insights of the poets who graced the harsh landscapes of ancient Arabia with their verses. Ghazal poetry, characterized by its exploration of love and longing, found its early roots in the poetic traditions of ancient Arabia. The arid landscapes, the ephemeral nature of nomadic existence, and the intricacies of human emotions provided fertile ground for poets to weave tales of unrequited love, separation, and the metaphorical journey through the deserts of the heart. Early ghazal poets, long before the golden age of Persian and Urdu ghazals, used the poetic form to articulate the complexities of human relationships within the context of the nomadic lifestyle. Love, in the poetic realm, became a metaphor for the yearning of the soul, mirroring the transient nature of life in the desert and the eternal quest for connection. The poetry of ancient Arabia, rooted in the harshness of the desert and the intricacies of tribal life, left a lasting legacy that transcended the sands of time. While the oral traditions of ancient Arabia have largely receded into the echoes of history, their influence endures in the linguistic richness of the Arabic language, the cultural tapestry of the Arabian. Chapter 2: Bedouin Bards and Tribal Verse. In the windswept expanses of ancient Arabia, where the shifting sands bore witness to the ebb and flow of nomadic life, poets emerged as the revered storytellers and praise singers within Bedouin communities. Their verses, resonating with the rhythmic cadence of the desert winds, wove tales of heroic exploits, celebrated tribal lineage, and served as both mirrors and architects of the cultural identity of the nomadic tribes. In this exploration, we delve into the multifaceted role of poets within Bedouin communities, unraveling the ways in which they navigated the arid landscapes of oral tradition to become the keepers of history, the architects of honor, and the lyrical voices of resilience. Bedouin life in ancient Arabia was molded by the exigencies of the arid desert environment. Nomadic tribes, such as the Bedouins, roamed the vast landscapes in search of grazing lands for their herds, relying on the ephemeral resources of the desert for sustenance. In the absence of written records, the oral tradition became the primary mode of communication, preserving the collective memory of tribes and forging a cultural continuity that transcended generations. Poets, as oral historians and narrators, played a crucial role in this milieu. The nomadic nature of Bedouin life demanded a fluid and adaptable mode of storytelling that could withstand the challenges of a transient existence. Through the art of oral poetry, the tales of Bedouin communities unfolded like an ever-unfurling desert landscape, etched in the minds and hearts of the tribes. Within Bedouin communities, poets assumed the mantle of cultural guardians, entrusted with the preservation of lineage, genealogy, and the collective memory of the tribe. Through meticulously crafted verses, they celebrated the noble lineage of the tribes, recounting the heroic exploits of ancestors, and weaving the intricate tapestry of tribal identity. The power of language became a vessel for the transmission of cultural heritage from one generation to the next. The poetic expressions were not mere recollections of historical events but dynamic narratives that breathed life into the past. The poets, often chosen from within the tribe for their linguistic prowess and intimate knowledge of tribal lore, became living repositories of cultural wisdom, embodying the ethos of their people through the lyrical beauty of their verses. Bedouin poets were not mere chroniclers of history, they were the praise singers who elevated the heroes of their tribes to legendary status. In the face of the harsh challenges posed by the desert, tales of courage, valor, and sacrifice served as beacons of inspiration for the Bedouin communities. Poets, with their words, carved these narratives into the collective consciousness, immortalizing the deeds of heroes and instilling a sense of pride and honor within the tribe. Through the rhythm of their verses, poets transformed ordinary men into mythical figures, weaving narratives that resonated with themes of bravery, resilience, and loyalty. The poetry became a living testament to the heroism of the tribe, reinforcing a sense of identity and unity among its members. The nomadic lifestyle of Bedouin communities often brought them into contact with neighboring tribes, and conflicts over resources, territories, or honor were not uncommon. Poets, with their eloquence and diplomatic finesse, assumed roles as mediators and arbitrators during times of intertribal disputes. Their words carried weight, serving as a means of diffusing tensions, negotiating alliances, and seeking resolutions to conflicts. The power of oratory in Bedouin society was not solely a pragmatic tool but an art form that wielded linguistic precision to navigate the delicate intricacies of tribal relations. Poets, through their verses, crafted narratives that could transcend the immediacy of conflicts, fostering a sense of mutual understanding and shared cultural values among tribes. The concept of honor, deeply ingrained in the Bedouin ethos, permeated the verses of poets, influencing the dynamics of tribal life. Honor, or urd in Arabic, held immense significance, shaping individual and collective behaviors. Poets, as custodians of cultural norms, found themselves entwined in the intricate dance of honor and blood feuds. When conflicts arose, poets played a role in both exacerbating and mitigating the consequences. Their verses could stoke the fires of vengeance, narrating tales that fueled the thirst for retribution. Conversely, poets could also employ their art to temper the passions of the moment, offering alternative narratives that advocated for reconciliation and the restoration of honor through peaceful means. The Arabic language, with its poetic nuances and linguistic richness, served as a canvas for Bedouin poets to craft their verses. Mastery of language was not only a skill but a source of cultural pride and distinction. Poets reveled in the intricate patterns of rhyme and meter, exploring the depths of metaphor and allegory to convey complex emotions, historical narratives, and the ethos of their tribes. The beauty of Bedouin language lay not only in its ability to communicate but in its aesthetic qualities. The poets became linguistic artisans, wielding words with precision and artistry to create verses that resonated with both intellectual depth and emotional resonance. The linguistic legacy of Bedouin poetry endures in the Arabic language, carrying the echoes of an ancient art form that shaped the cultural landscape of the Arabian Peninsula. Beyond the tales of heroism and honor, Bedouin poets explored the intricacies of human emotions, particularly in the realm of love and longing. The nomadic existence, marked by separations and reunions, lent itself to themes of unrequited love, the ephemeral nature of connections, and the metaphorical journey through the deserts of the heart. Bedouin love poetry, often expressed in the form of ghazals, became a lyrical exploration of human relationships within the context of nomadic life. The poets painted vivid pictures of love as a mirage in the desert, a transient oasis that both beckoned and eluded. The echoes of these poetic expressions resonated with the complex emotions experienced by the nomads as they traversed the vast expanse of the Arabian sands. As ancient Arabia transitioned through historical epochs, Bedouin poetry underwent transformations influenced by political, social, and cultural changes. The advent of Islam brought new literary forms, and the Bedouin way of life gradually shifted with the sedentarization of tribes and the establishment of settled communities. Written records supplanted oral traditions, and the nomadic lifestyle underwent profound transformations. Despite the decline of the traditional Bedouin poetry, the echoes of its influence resonate in the broader Arab literary tradition. Elements of Bedouin poetic expression, with its emphasis on honor, heroism, and linguistic artistry, continue to permeate the contemporary literary landscape. In the realms of early Arabian poetry, the verses echoed with the profound themes that wove the tapestry of human experience, love, war, and nature. Against the backdrop of the vast and unforgiving Arabian desert, poets penned verses that resonated with the rhythms of the nomadic way of life, celebrating love's tender nuances, chronicling the valor of warriors in the crucible of battle, and drawing inspiration from the stark beauty of the natural world. This exploration delves into the evocative themes that animated the verses of early Arabian poets, offering a glimpse into the poetic expressions that transcended the shifting sands of time. Love, a timeless muse, found its poignant expression in the ghazals of early Arabian poetry. The vast and seemingly endless landscapes of the Arabian desert became metaphors for the complex and often tumultuous terrain of human emotions. Poets, in their verses, wove tales of unrequited love, longing, and the ephemeral nature of romantic connections. The metaphor of the desert mirage, an illusion shimmering on the horizon, frequently appeared in the poetry, capturing the transient and elusive nature of love. Poets depicted the journey through the arid expanse as a metaphor for the lover's quest, mirroring the trials and tribulations of navigating the intricate pathways of the heart. In these verses, the beauty of the beloved was often likened to the lush oasis in the midst of the desolation, a source of life and sustenance amid the harshness of the desert. Love became a powerful force that could both illuminate the poet's existence and cast shadows of longing across the vast canvas of the Arabian landscapes. As the winds of time swept across the desert, the echoes of battle cries reverberated through the verses of early Arabian poets. War, a grim reality of the nomadic existence, became a central theme, with poets immortalizing the valor of warriors, the clashes of swords, and the enduring spirit of tribal honor. The Arabian Peninsula, marked by intertribal conflicts and the ever-present specter of blood feuds, provided a crucible for the heroic tradition in poetry. Poets, often warriors themselves, chronicled the feats of champions, glorifying their courage, resilience, and unwavering commitment to defending the honor of their tribes. Battle scenes unfolded in vivid imagery within the verses, with the clash of weapons, the thundering of hooves, and the cries of triumph or despair depicted with visceral intensity. The language of war became a poetic palette through which poets painted the struggles and sacrifices of their people, contributing to the rich tapestry of the Arabian heroic narrative. Nature, with its stark beauty and formidable challenges, served as both muse and metaphor in the poetry of ancient Arabia. The desert, in particular, became a canvas onto which poets painted landscapes of desolation and abundance, drawing inspiration from the relentless sun, shifting sands, and oases that punctuated the vast expanse. Desert imagery often symbolized the trials of life, mirroring the nomadic journey through hardships and triumphs. The rolling dunes, shaped by the ceaseless winds, were likened to the undulating emotions of the human soul, while the oasis represented moments of respite and nourishment amid the arid stretches of existence. The harshness of the desert also became a metaphor for the challenges faced by lovers, warriors, and individuals on their personal quests. Sandstorms, mirages, and the scorching sun found resonance in verses that captured the fragility and resilience of the human spirit against the backdrop of nature's grandeur and cruelty. In the vast emptiness of the desert, water held a sacred significance, and poets often turned to water imagery as symbols of life, renewal, and abundance. Springs and wells, scattered like jewels in the barren landscape, became metaphors for moments of emotional or spiritual nourishment. The quest for water mirrored the quest for love, wisdom, or meaning in the vastness of life's journey. The poets celebrated the life-giving properties of water, emphasizing its role as a source of sustenance, quenching the thirst of both the physical and metaphorical traveler. Conversely, the absence of water, symbolized by dry riverbeds and parched landscapes, served as a poignant metaphor for the desolation of unrequited love, the aridity of a soul deprived of spiritual sustenance, or the harsh realities of war and conflict. The expansive night sky of the Arabian desert, unpolluted by city lights, became a celestial tapestry that inspired poets to gaze into the cosmos for metaphors and symbols. Stars, the moon, and the vastness of the night sky found a recurring presence in verses, carrying profound meanings and reflections. The stars, scattered like diamonds across the heavens, became symbols of guidance, destiny, and the enduring nature of love. The moon, with its waxing and waning phases, provided a metaphor for the cyclical nature of life, love, and the ebb and flow of human emotions. The night itself, with its silence and mysteries, offered a poetic canvas for introspection, contemplation, and the expression of emotions often concealed in the harsh light of day. The celestial bodies, distant yet omnipresent, became witnesses to the poetic journeys of lovers, warriors, and wanderers. In the nomadic existence of early Arabian communities, the camel emerged as a powerful symbol, both in practical terms and within the realms of poetic metaphor. The resilient and enduring nature of camels made them essential companions in the harsh desert, and poets often turned to these creatures as metaphors for steadfastness, loyalty, and the enduring spirit of the nomads. Camels became emblematic of love and longing, as poets penned verses expressing the yearning of lovers separated by vast distances. The camel's journey through the desert became a poetic allegory for the lover's quest, traversing the arid landscapes in search of the distant beloved. The camel's stoic demeanor, its ability to endure the hardships of the desert, and its loyalty to its masters were celebrated in verses that painted vivid portraits of these remarkable creatures. In doing so, poets elevated the camel to a status of symbolic importance, embodying the ethos of the nomadic way of life. The poetic landscape of early Arabia found its pinnacle in the Mu'allaqat, the suspended odes, a collection of 7 pre-Islamic poems recognized for their exceptional linguistic and artistic brilliance. Composed by different poets from various tribes, these masterpieces encapsulated the diverse themes of love, war, and nature that permeated early Arabian poetry. Imru al-Qais, often referred to as the Prince of Poets, contributed verses that captured the essence of love and the beauty of the desert. Antara ibn Shaddad, the famed warrior poet, celebrated the heroism of warriors on the battlefield. Zuhair ibn Abi Sulma, another luminary. The oral tradition of Bedouin communities in ancient Arabia was a tapestry woven by the voices of numerous poets, each contributing distinct hues to the cultural landscape. These poets, often emerging from the heart of the nomadic tribes, became the custodians of history, the architects of honor, and the lyrical chroniclers of love and war. In this exploration, we delve into the contributions of specific poets, highlighting the diversity of styles and topics that emerged within different tribes of the Bedouin communities, immortalizing their voices in the shifting sands of time. Imru al-Qais, often heralded as the Prince of Poets, belonged to the tribe of Kinda and left an indelible mark on the landscape of Arabian poetry. His verses, lyrical and evocative, captured the essence of love, the beauty of the desert, and the melancholy of separation. One of his most celebrated poems begins with the lines, "Visit the graves of the nobles, and ask about my love. They will tell you that her home is here." Imru al-Qais's exploration of love was infused with a sense of yearning, using the metaphor of the poet's beloved residing in the graves of noble ancestors. His verses painted vivid images of the Arabian landscapes, intertwining the themes of nature and love in a poetic dance that resonated across generations. Imru al-Qais's style was characterized by its eloquence, simplicity, and a deep connection to the desert. His contributions to the oral tradition exemplify the lyrical beauty that Bedouin poets could achieve, transcending the limitations of the spoken word. Antara ibn Shaddad, born to an enslaved Abyssinian mother and an Arab noble father of the tribe of Abs, defied societal norms through his remarkable contributions to both poetry and warfare. His verses, steeped in the heroic tradition, celebrated the valor of warriors on the battlefield and the complexities of tribal identity. Antara's poems often spoke of his love for Abla, a woman of noble lineage whose social status presented a formidable obstacle to their union. The themes of love, honor, and the struggle against social norms were intricately woven into the fabric of his verses. One of his famous lines captures the essence of his poetic prowess. "Abla, when she shows herself in her garments, she outshines the stars of the sky." His unique position as a warrior poet provided a distinctive perspective, blending the grittiness of battle with the elegance of poetry. Antara's verses, celebrated for their raw energy and thematic richness, showcased the multidimensionality of the Bedouin poetic tradition. 3. Zuhair ibn Abi Sulma, the sage and wordsmith. Zuhair ibn Abi Sulma, a poet of the tribe of Murrah, distinguished himself through his keen observations, wisdom, and mastery of language. His verses delved into the philosophical and moral dimensions of life, addressing themes of justice, wisdom, and the ephemeral nature of worldly pursuits. One of Zuhair's famous lines reflects his philosophical inclinations: "Do not ask about a people, but ask about their leader, for he is the one who shapes their deeds." This emphasis on leadership and its impact on the collective destiny of a people showcased Zuhair's ability to transcend the immediate concerns of tribal life. Zuhair's style was marked by its intellectual depth and rhetorical sophistication. He became known for his ability to weave intricate metaphors and allegories into his verses, elevating the oral tradition to realms of reflective and philosophical inquiry. Al-Nabiga al-Dubyani, a poet of the tribe of Dubin, stands out for his extensive travels and encounters with different cultures. His verses reflect a cosmopolitan awareness, incorporating elements from various traditions while maintaining the core themes of Bedouin poetry. Al-Nabiga's poetic journey is marked by his encounters with different leaders and courts, including the court of Emperor Justinian in Constantinople. His poetry often carried echoes of his travels, incorporating diverse linguistic elements and reflecting a broader cultural exposure. One of his celebrated poems begins with the lines, "I travel, and I have traveled through many lands. I have visited the courts of kings and leaders." Al-Nabiga's verses transcend the immediate concerns of tribal life, providing a window into the broader cultural exchanges that shaped the oral tradition of Bedouin communities. Tarafa ibn al-Abd, a poet of the tribe of Bakka, distinguished himself through his romantic verses that celebrated the beauty of the desert and the allure of love. His eloquent expressions of longing and the sensory richness of his poetry made him a luminary within the tradition. Tarafa's poems often depicted the landscapes of Arabia with vivid imagery, showcasing his deep connection to the natural world. In one of his verses, he describes a mirage in the desert, using it as a metaphor for the ephemeral nature of worldly pleasures. The romantic themes in Tarafa's poetry resonated with the nomadic way of life, where separations and reunions were woven into the fabric of existence. His contributions to the oral tradition reflected the emotional depth and expressive beauty that could be achieved within the poetic realm. Alaisho, a blind poet from the tribe of Tai, demonstrated the transformative power of poetic expression through his verses that delved into themes of love, war, and wisdom. Despite his visual impairment, Alaisho's poetry illuminated the cultural and intellectual vibrancy of Bedouin communities. His famous ode begins with the lines, "With my life, I water the garden of my people, and in the garden, the flowers are beautiful." Alaisho's verses carried a profound sense of responsibility and purpose, emphasizing the role of the poet in nurturing the collective identity and well-being of his people. Alaisho's blindness did not hinder his ability to convey visual and emotional richness through his verses. His poetry exemplifies the capacity of the oral tradition to transcend physical limitations, using language as a powerful medium for emotional and intellectual expression. Labd ibn Rabi'a, a renowned poet of the tribe of Amir, brought a unique blend of wisdom, eloquence, and storytelling to the oral tradition. His verses often carried moral and philosophical undertones, exploring the complexities of human nature and the impermanence of worldly pursuits. In one of his poems, Labd reflects on the fleeting nature of life. Life's bounty is like the lightning's flash, its thunderclap is the rush of the wind. This contemplative theme highlights Labd's penchant for delving into the deeper currents of human existence. Labd's style was characterized by its intellectual depth and moral reflections, setting him apart as a sage within the poetic tradition. His contributions showcase the diverse philosophical dimensions that poets brought to the oral tradition, enriching the cultural heritage of Bedouin communities. Chapter 3: The Mu'allaqat, Hanging Poems of Pre-Islamic Arabia. In the rich tapestry of pre-Islamic Arabian poetry, the Mu'allaqat, or hanging poems, stand as luminous gems, capturing the essence of Bedouin eloquence and artistic brilliance. Comprising 7 masterpieces, these poems were revered to such an extent that they were suspended on the walls of the Kaaba in Mecca, a singular honor bestowed upon works deemed unparalleled in linguistic mastery and cultural significance. This exploration delves into the Mu'allaqat, unraveling the mystique, themes, and historical context that transformed these pre-Islamic verses into timeless treasures. The Mu'allaqat, attributed to 7 different poets, serve as a testament to the profound literary achievements of pre-Islamic Arabia. Each poem, suspended on the sacred walls of the Kaaba, encapsulates the linguistic virtuosity, cultural richness, and poetic brilliance that flourished within the nomadic tribes of the Arabian Peninsula. The term Mu'allaqat itself translates to suspended or hanging, a nod to the revered status these poems held among the Bedouin communities. The selection of these 7 masterpieces reflected a collective acknowledgement of their exceptional quality and thematic diversity, as they hailed from different tribes, offering a mosaic of perspectives on life, love, honor, and the desert. The tradition of hanging poems on the walls of the Kaaba was a deeply ingrained cultural practice in pre-Islamic Arabia. The Kaaba, a cubic structure in Mecca, held immense religious significance, even before the advent of Islam. It served as a sacred sanctuary and a focal point for various Arabian tribes during annual pilgrimage events. The practice of displaying the Mu'allaqat on the Kaaba was not merely an aesthetic or symbolic gesture, it carried profound cultural and social implications. By showcasing the finest examples of their poetic heritage in a central and revered location, the Bedouin tribes aimed to underscore the significance of their cultural contributions, fostering a sense of pride and unity among the diverse tribes that convened at the Kaaba. Imru al-Qais, often hailed as the Prince of Poets, contributed a mu'allaqa that echoed with the themes of love, longing, and the melancholy of separation. His verses, adorned with vivid imagery and eloquent expressions, painted a poignant picture of the nomadic existence and the complexities of romantic entanglements. In one of the celebrated lines from his mu'allaqa, Imru al-Qais encapsulates the essence of his poetic prowess. The camel complained and cried, stirring with longing. It was like my patience, having run its course, complaining. Through the metaphor of the camel's cries mirroring his own longing, Imru al-Qais wove a narrative that transcended the immediate concerns of tribal life, touching upon the universal themes of love and yearning. His Mu'allaqah, characterized by its emotional depth and evocative imagery, solidified Imru al-Qais's position as a luminary in the constellation of Arabian poets. Tarafa ibn al-Abd, a poet from the tribe of Bakka, contributed verses to the Mu'allaqat that celebrated the beauty of the desert and the allure of love. His eloquent expressions of longing and sensory richness showcased a deep connection to the natural world and a profound understanding of the nomadic way of life. In his Mu'allaqah, Tarafa weaves a poetic tapestry that captures the essence of the Arabian landscapes. Take me to a tree, whose base cries out, a tree laden with fruit, upon which the fingers of birds have woven a canopy. Through these verses, Tarafa invites the reader to envision a flourishing oasis in the midst of the desert, where nature's bounty and the intricate dance of birds create a scene of vibrant beauty. His contribution to the Mu'allaqat not only celebrated the romantic themes of love and nature but also exemplified the sensory richness and visual imagery characteristic of Bedouin poetry. Labd ibn Rabi'a, a poet from the tribe of Amir, brought a distinctive voice to the Mu'allaqat, infusing his verses with wisdom, contemplation, and moral reflections. His contribution showcased the intellectual depth that poets could achieve within the oral tradition, elevating the cultural heritage of Bedouin communities. In one of his famous lines, Labd reflects on the transient nature of life. Life's bounty is like the lightning's flash, its thunderclap is the rush of the wind. This contemplative theme highlights Labd's inclination towards philosophical inquiry, transcending the immediate concerns of tribal life to delve into the deeper currents of human existence. Labd's Mu'allaqah serves as a testament to the diverse philosophical dimensions that poets brought to the oral tradition, enriching the cultural tapestry of Bedouin communities. Zuhair ibn Abi Sulma, a poet from the tribe of Murrah, distinguished himself within the Mu'allaqat through his rhetorical sophistication and ethical inquiry. His verses delved into themes of justice, wisdom, and the impermanence of worldly pursuits, showcasing a mastery of language and a keen understanding of the moral fabric of Bedouin society. In his Mu'allaqah, Zuhair weaves intricate metaphors and allegories, elevating the oral tradition to realms of reflective inquiry. One of his lines emphasizes the transient nature of worldly glory. The world is a deep well, and fortunes will revolve around it. Zuhair's contribution exemplifies the intellectual depth and linguistic finesse that poets brought to the Mu'allaqat, contributing to the cultural legacy of Bedouin communities. The poetry of pre-Islamic Arabia stands as a testament to the cultural richness, linguistic brilliance, and historical significance of the Bedouin tribes that traversed the vast landscapes of the Arabian Peninsula. These verses, passed down through generations within the oral tradition, played a pivotal role in preserving the cultural and literary heritage of a nomadic society. In this exploration, we delve into the content, structure, and historical context of pre-Islamic Arabian poems, unraveling the profound significance they hold in understanding the ethos of the time and the enduring legacy they left on the Arabian literary landscape. The content of pre-Islamic Arabian poems weaves a tapestry of diverse themes, reflecting the multifaceted aspects of Bedouin life. Central among these themes are love, war, and nature, each infused with the nuances of the nomadic existence. Love, romantic expressions of love often manifested as the poets explored the complexities of relationships amid the harsh realities of the desert. Poets like Imru al-Qais and Tarafa ibn al-Abd penned verses that celebrated the beauty of beloved figures, using vivid imagery and metaphorical language to convey the intensity of emotions. War, the nomadic nature of Bedouin life brought with it the inevitable reality of intertribal conflicts and skirmishes over resources. Poets such as Antara ibn Shaddad, a warrior poet, immortalized the valor of warriors on the battlefield. Battle scenes, replete with the clash of swords and thundering hooves, unfolded in verses that highlighted the heroism and sacrifice of tribal champions. Nature, the Arabian landscape, with its unforgiving deserts and fleeting oases, served as both muse and metaphor. Poets like Tarafa ibn al-Abd celebrated the beauty of the natural world, using sensory-rich imagery to convey the allure of the desert, the abundance of oases, and the resilience of nomadic life amidst the harsh terrain. These thematic strands in pre-Islamic Arabian poetry not only reflected the immediate concerns of Bedouin life but also transcended temporal and cultural boundaries, resonating with the universal human experiences of love, conflict, and the intrinsic connection to nature. 2. Structure. The art of rhyme, meter, and oral tradition. The structure of pre-Islamic Arabian poems was a meticulous art form, relying on the nuances of rhyme and meter to create a rhythmic cadence that could be easily memorized and recited within the oral tradition. Bedouin poets were linguistic artisans, weaving verses that captivated both the ear and the heart. Rhyme. The intricate patterns of rhyme, or kafiya, were central to the structure of these poems. Poets employed end rhymes and internal rhymes with a masterful precision, creating a musicality that enhanced the oral transmission of their verses. The use of rhyme not only contributed to the aesthetic beauty of the poetry but also facilitated memorization, a crucial aspect in a society with limited reliance on written records. Meter. The rhythmic meter, or bar, added another layer of complexity to the structure of pre-Islamic Arabian poems. Different meters were employed to convey different tones and emotions. The mastery of meter allowed poets to create a harmonious flow, enhancing the memorability and the oral transmission of their works. Oral tradition. The reliance on oral tradition shaped the structure of these poems in profound ways. They were crafted to be recited, memorized, and passed down from one generation to the next through the spoken word. The structural elements, such as rhyme and meter, served as mnemonic devices, aiding in the preservation of the verses within a society where written documentation was scarce. The orality of these poems was not just a means of transmission but a fundamental aspect of their cultural resonance. Each recitation became a living performance, connecting the listeners to the collective memory and cultural identity of the Bedouin tribes. The historical context of pre-Islamic Arabian poems is deeply entwined with the nomadic lifestyle, tribal dynamics, and the cultural milieu of the Arabian Peninsula. The poems emerged from a society where oral storytelling was the primary mode of communication, and each verse carried the weight of preserving the collective memory of the Bedouin tribes. Nomadic life. The harsh realities of nomadic life, characterized by arid deserts, vast expanses, and the constant quest for resources, found poignant expression in the poetry. The nomad's relationship with the environment, the challenges posed by the harsh landscapes, and the nomadic journeys became central motifs within the verses. Tribal honor. Bedouin society was deeply rooted in the concept of honor, or urd. Poets like Antara ibn Shaddad elevated tribal heroes to legendary status, celebrating their courage and valor on the battlefield. The narratives of blood feuds, loyalty, and the intricate dance of honor and vengeance shaped the thematic content of the poetry. Cultural identity. The poems played a pivotal role in shaping and preserving the cultural identity of Bedouin tribes. They were not merely literary artifacts but living expressions of the ethos, values, and traditions of a nomadic society. The celebration of tribal lineage, the glorification of heroes, and the nuanced reflections on cultural norms contributed to a collective identity that transcended individual tribes. In the historical context of pre-Islamic Arabia, where written records were scarce, these poems served as the archives of a people, capturing the essence of their existence and providing a timeless bridge to the past. The significance of pre-Islamic Arabian poems lies in their role as custodians of cultural and literary heritage. These verses, meticulously crafted within the oral tradition, functioned as living repositories of Bedouin identity, reflecting the aspirations, challenges, and triumphs of a nomadic society. Cultural transmission. The oral transmission of these poems ensured the continuity of cultural knowledge across generations. As the Bedouin tribes gathered around campfires, in tents, or during communal events, the recitation of poems became a means of passing down history, traditions, and shared values. Linguistic legacy. The linguistic brilliance of pre-Islamic Arabian poetry became a source of cultural pride and distinction. Mastery of language was not just a skill but a reflection of intellectual prowess and cultural sophistication. The poetic expressions showcased the richness of the Arabic language, leaving an enduring linguistic legacy. Artistic achievement. The artistic achievement of these poems, with their intricate rhyme schemes, melodic meters, and evocative imagery, elevated Bedouin poetry to a level of aesthetic refinement. The poet's ability to weave narratives that transcended the immediacy of tribal life contributed to the broader artistic landscape of the Arabian Peninsula. Inspiration for Islamic poetry. The legacy of pre-Islamic Arabian poetry is intricately connected to the emergence of Islamic poetry. The themes, structures, and linguistic artistry found in the Mu'allaqat and other pre-Islamic poems influenced later poets who embraced Islam. The tradition of praising the beauty of the beloved, reflecting on the transient nature of life, and celebrating nature's beauty continued to echo in Islamic poetry. Chapter 4: Poetic Renaissance in the Islamic Era. The advent of Islam marked a transformative juncture in the rich tapestry of Arabian poetry, reshaping its themes, styles, and purposes. As the Islamic revelation unfolded through the words of the Prophet Muhammad, poetry in the Arabian Peninsula underwent a profound metamorphosis, aligning itself with the spiritual and moral dimensions of the newfound faith. This exploration delves into the evolution of Arabian poetry with the dawn of Islam, highlighting the ways in which Islamic principles infused poetic expression with new meanings and elevated the role of poets within the Muslim community. At the heart of the transformation of Arabian poetry was the Quran, the holy scripture of Islam, revealed to Prophet Muhammad over a period of 23 years. The Quran, distinguished by its unparalleled eloquence, became a paradigm shift in linguistic and literary standards, setting a new benchmark for Arabic expression. The poetic qualities of the Quran, characterized by rhythmic cadence, metaphorical depth, and powerful imagery, captivated the hearts and minds of the Arabian people. It presented a linguistic miracle that not only challenged the poets of the time but also inspired a re-evaluation of the purpose and potential of the Arabic language. The Quran's linguistic excellence, coupled with its profound spiritual messages, became a touchstone for poets seeking to align their craft with Islamic principles. With the advent of Islam, poetry assumed a new role as a powerful tool for the propagation of Islamic teachings. Poets, once revered for their eloquence and linguistic prowess, found a higher purpose in using their skills to convey the message of monotheism, moral conduct, and the significance of the afterlife. Many renowned pre-Islamic poets, including Hassan ibn Thabit, embraced Islam and redirected their poetic talents toward praising the Prophet Muhammad and conveying the divine revelations. Their verses became a means of inviting people to embrace Islam, extolling the virtues of faith, and admonishing against the vices of idolatry and immorality. Hassan ibn Thabit, often referred to as the poet of the Prophet, composed numerous poems in praise of Prophet Muhammad. His verses not only celebrated the character and mission of the Prophet but also served as a form of defense against those who opposed Islam. Poetry became a strategic medium for disseminating the tenets of the new faith and establishing a cultural bridge between the pre-Islamic Arabian tradition and the emerging Islamic ethos. The transformation of Arabian poetry with the advent of Islam extended beyond the realm of spoken and written words to encompass the realm of sound. The Nasheed, a form of melodic poetry, emerged as a unique expression of devotion and worship within the Islamic tradition. Nasheeds, often accompanied by simple musical instruments or percussion, served as a medium for praising Allah, expressing gratitude, and narrating the stories of the Prophet and his companions. These musical poems, marked by their rhythmic beauty and spiritual themes, became an integral part of Islamic cultural expression, providing a harmonious complement to the verbal aspects of poetic tradition. The Nasheed tradition allowed poets to explore new dimensions of creativity, combining linguistic finesse with melodic arrangements to evoke a profound emotional and spiritual response from the audience. This fusion of music and poetry within the context of Islamic worship became a unique form of artistic expression, contributing to the cultural richness of the Muslim world. Within the realm of Islamic poetry, Sufi poets emerged as luminaries, contributing a distinct genre that explored the mystical dimensions of spirituality and the quest for divine love. Sufism, an esoteric and contemplative dimension of Islam, found expression through the verses of poets like Rumi, Ibn Arabi, and Al-Ghazali. These Sufi poets often employed allegory, symbolism, and metaphor to convey their experiences of spiritual awakening, union with the divine, and the transformative power of love. Their verses transcended the boundaries of conventional language, offering readers a glimpse into the ineffable realms of mystical insight and communion with the divine presence. Rumi, a 13th-century Persian poet and Sufi mystic, crafted verses that celebrated the intoxicating journey of spiritual realization. His Mathnawi, an epic poem, delves into the themes of love, surrender, and the yearning for union with the divine. Through poetic allegories and metaphors, Rumi's verses encapsulated the essence of Sufi philosophy, inviting readers to embark on an inner journey of self-discovery and spiritual illumination. As Islamic civilization flourished, a new genre of poetry known as Akbari emerged, dedicated to narrating historical events, biographies of the Prophet and his companions, and accounts of Islamic conquests. Poets like al-Buturi and al-Mutanabi utilized their craft to immortalize the historical achievements of Islamic leaders and the unfolding saga of the Muslim community. Akbari poetry played a crucial role in preserving the historical memory of the Islamic world, contributing to a shared narrative that transcended geographic and linguistic boundaries. These historical poems became a means of educating the masses about the triumphs, struggles, and sacrifices of early Muslims, reinforcing a sense of collective identity and pride. The formality and grandeur of Akbari poetry were well suited to the gravity of historical events. These verses, often recited in royal courts and public gatherings, served as a means of commemoration and edification, perpetuating the historical legacy of Islam through the power of poetic expression. Even as poetry took on more explicitly religious and moral tones, a strain of satirical poetry persisted, offering social commentary and critique in verse. Poets like Abu Nuwas navigated the realms of both classical Arabic poetry and satirical expression, addressing societal norms, political figures, and the foibles of human behavior. Abu Nuwas, known for his wit and irreverence, composed verses that pushed the boundaries of conventional propriety. His satirical poetry, while entertaining, also served as a reflection on the complexities and contradictions of the society in which he lived. Through humor and irony, satirical poets provided a lens through which people could examine their own actions, norms, and power structures. The continued presence of satirical poetry in the Islamic tradition demonstrated the flexibility and adaptability of the poetic form. It allowed poets to engage with societal issues, challenge norms, and offer a space for critical reflection within the parameters of poetic expression. The transformation of Arabian poetry with the advent of Islam exerted a profound influence on the Arabic language itself. The linguistic elegance and rhetorical finesse found in the Quran set a standard that poets sought to emulate. Arabic, once celebrated for its linguistic diversity within the pre-Islamic mu'allaqat, now became a unifying force, bound by the linguistic excellence exemplified in the Quran. Poets embraced the challenge of aligning their craft with the linguistic precision and spiritual depth of the Quran. The impact of this linguistic standardization extended beyond the realm of poetry, influencing the development of Arabic. The transition of Arabian poetry with the advent of Islam was not merely a shift in themes, it represented a profound transformation in the very soul of poetic expression. Poets, once the heralds of tribal valor and the chroniclers of Bedouin life, now found a new purpose: to weave verses that resonated with Islamic themes, morals, and values. This adaptation of their craft was not a surrender of artistic autonomy but a conscious alignment with the spiritual and ethical framework of Islam. In this exploration, we unravel the ways in which poets adapted their craft to become the articulate voices of Islamic spirituality, morality, and values. The core tenet of Islam, the belief in the oneness of Allah, Tawhid, became a central theme in the poetry of the era. Poets adapted their craft to emphasize the singular nature of God, crafting verses that exalted his attributes, celebrated his mercy, and explored the cosmic unity underpinned by Tawhid. Expressions of monotheism were not confined to theological discourse but were seamlessly integrated into various poetic forms. From panegyrics to elegies, poets wove verses that reflected a profound understanding of the oneness of God, inviting their audience to contemplate the spiritual dimensions of their existence. One of the key figures in this transformation was Hassan ibn Thabit, who transitioned from being a poet of the Quraysh tribe to becoming the poet of the Prophet after embracing Islam. His verses praised the divine mission of Prophet Muhammad and extolled the greatness of Allah. The adaptation of his poetic craft to Islamic themes showcased the power of poetry as a tool for spiritual reflection and religious expression. A distinctive feature of poetry during the early Islamic period was the praise and celebration of Prophet Muhammad. Poets like Hassan ibn Thabit and Ka'b ibn Zuhair dedicated their verses to capturing the noble qualities, actions, and significance of the Prophet. These poems, known as Qasidat al-Burda or Poems of the Mantle, became a genre in themselves, portraying the spiritual and moral stature of Prophet Muhammad. The poets employed rich metaphors, vivid descriptions, and eloquent praises to convey the divine charisma and guidance embodied by the Prophet. In the Qasidat al-Burda, Hassan ibn Thabit writes, "O you, the best among those who were ever chosen, although you have never read a book before." Through such verses, poets not only celebrated the Prophet's character but also emphasized his role as a guide for the illiterate, reflecting the transformative power of Islamic teachings. The infusion of Islamic themes into poetry went beyond theological concepts to encompass a nuanced exploration of ethics and morality. Poets became moral philosophers in verse, offering reflections on virtuous conduct, social justice, and the ethical considerations embedded in Islamic teachings. Ibn al-Mutaz, a renowned poet and scholar, integrated moral lessons into his poetry. His verses reflected on themes such as humility, patience, and the transient nature of worldly pursuits. Through eloquent expressions, he urged his audience to contemplate the ethical dimensions of their actions and choices. In this way, poets adapted their craft to serve as conduits for moral guidance, transforming their verses into instruments for ethical reflection and spiritual introspection. The integration of moral lessons within poetic narratives not only elevated the literary value of the verses but also reinforced the ethical fabric of Islamic society. Islam's emphasis on the afterlife, with its concepts of resurrection, judgment, and the eternal consequences of one's deeds, found poignant expression in the poetry of the era. Poets adapted their craft to explore the themes of mortality, accountability, and the anticipation of the hereafter. The eminent poet Al-Farazdak dedicated verses to contemplations on the transient nature of life and the inevitability of death. His poetic reflections encouraged the audience to consider the impermanence of worldly pursuits and to focus on actions that would yield spiritual rewards in the afterlife. The incorporation of afterlife themes in poetry served a dual purpose. It provided solace to those grappling with the ephemeral nature of existence while instilling a sense of accountability for one's actions. Poets thus became spiritual guides through their verses, navigating the intricacies of human mortality and the profound beliefs embedded in Islamic eschatology. The Quran, as the ultimate literary masterpiece, became a wellspring of inspiration for poets seeking to adapt their craft to Islamic themes. Poets skillfully integrated Quranic imagery, stories, and verses into their compositions, creating a poetic tapestry that resonated with the spiritual resonance of the Holy Scripture. The poet al-Buturi, for example, masterfully incorporated Quranic references into his verses, elevating the linguistic beauty of his poetry while imbuing it with profound spiritual meanings. Through this integration, poets forged a connection between the poetic and the divine, creating a seamless blend of artistic expression and religious reverence. The strategic use of Quranic imagery not only enhanced the eloquence of the poetry but also provided a cultural continuity, bridging the pre-Islamic poetic tradition with the emerging Islamic literary landscape. As Islam flourished, poets adapted their craft to include devotional poetry that expressed profound love and devotion to Allah. These poems, often lyrical in nature, became a means of expressing the intense spiritual experiences of the poets and their deep connection to the divine. Rabi' al-Basri, a revered Sufi saint and poetess, exemplifies this genre of devotional poetry. Her verses, marked by an ardent love for Allah, transcended the conventions of traditional poetry. Through her words, Rabi' communicated a level of spiritual intimacy and devotion that resonated with audiences seeking a more profound connection with the divine. In devotional poetry, the poet's craft became a vessel for expressing the ineffable emotions associated with spiritual yearning, surrender, and divine love. This genre reinforced the notion that poetry, far from being divorced from religious experience, could be a deeply spiritual endeavor. The emergence of Sufism within Islam gave rise to a distinct form of poetry that delved into mystical experiences, spiritual journeys, and the quest for divine union. Sufi poets such as Rumi, Ibn Arabi, and Atta crafted verses that went beyond the conventional boundaries of poetic expression, exploring the realms of metaphysical insight and spiritual ecstasy. Rumi's Mathnawi, an extensive poetic work, contains verses that explore the deeper meanings of love, surrender, and the transformative power of spiritual awakening. Through metaphorical language and allegorical tales, Sufi poets conveyed complex theological concepts in a way that appealed to the emotions and imagination. Sufi poetry was an adaptation of the poetic craft to express the ineffable experiences of the mystics, bridging the realms of the material and the divine. This genre not only enriched the literary landscape but also provided a contemplative space for audiences seeking a more profound understanding of Islamic spirituality. In the tapestry of Arabic literature, the names Al-Farazdak and Al-Mutanabi stand as luminaries, weaving verses that not only navigated the changing socio-political landscapes of their time but also contributed significantly to the golden age of Arabic literature. Through their eloquence, wit, and profound insight, these poets left an indelible mark on the literary legacy of the Arab world. This exploration delves into the works of Al-Farazdak and Al-Mutanabi, uncovering the nuances of their poetry, their responses to contemporary challenges, and the enduring impact they had on the flourishing intellectual and artistic scene of the Islamic Golden Age. Al-Farazdak, born in the late 7th century, was a poet of remarkable versatility whose work traversed various genres, including eulogy, satire, and moral reflection. Hailing from the Tamim tribe, his poetry reflected the turbulent times of the Umayyad and early Abbasid periods, providing a nuanced commentary on the socio-political dynamics of his era. Eulogies and panegyrics. One of Al-Farazdak's notable contributions was his mastery in composing eulogies, Mahdi, and panegyrics, Mad. His ability to praise and extol leaders and patrons earned him recognition and patronage, allowing him to navigate the intricate networks of power and influence. His eulogies often celebrated the nobility and virtues of those in authority, highlighting the tribal ethos and virtues of chivalry. However, Al-Farazdak was not confined to a flattering portrayal of the powerful. In a famous poetic duel, Hijja, with Jarir ibn Atiyah, another renowned poet, Al-Farazdak showcased his wit and skill by humorously satirizing Jarir's extravagant praise, creating a literary spectacle that remains an iconic moment in Arabic literary history. Moral reflections and social critique. Beyond the realms of praise and satire, Al-Farazdak delved into moral reflections and social critique. His verses addressed themes of justice, ethical conduct, and the transient nature of worldly pursuits. In doing so, he demonstrated a poetic depth that transcended the immediate concerns of power struggles and provided a reflective lens on the human condition. The versatility of Al-Farazdak's poetry allowed him to navigate the intricate socio-political terrain of his time while contributing to the literary tapestry of the Islamic Golden Age. Al-Mutanabi, born in the 10th century, emerged as one of the most celebrated and audacious poets in Arabic literature. His verses, marked by eloquence, ambition, and a sense of grandiosity, reflected the tumultuous times of the Abbasid Caliphate, where power struggles, military campaigns, and cultural ferment shaped the socio-political landscape. Rise to prominence. Al-Mutanabi's rise to prominence was swift, propelled by his poetic prowess and his ability to navigate the courts of various rulers. His ambitious verses sought not only to praise his patrons but also to elevate the Arabic language to new heights of linguistic excellence. His panegyrics were characterized by extravagant imagery, intricate metaphors, and a commanding rhythm that captivated audiences and patrons alike. However, Al-Mutanabi's audacity was not without controversy. His unyielding self-confidence and sharp critiques, at times bordering on arrogance, led to both admiration and animosity. Despite facing imprisonment and exile for his daring verses, Al-Mutanabi continued to wield his pen with unparalleled vigor and defiance. Poetic themes and imagery. Al-Mutanabi's poetry was characterized by its multifaceted themes, ranging from philosophical reflections to passionate expressions of love and valor. His verses were imbued with a profound sense of destiny and an unshakable belief in his own poetic genius. One of his famous lines reads, "I am the master whose glory in the earth will never die, I am the lion who will not be surpassed." This unapologetically bold declaration reflects Al-Mutanabi's self-perception as a literary giant, a theme that permeated much of his work. Courtly patronage and political critique. While al-Mutanabi sought patronage in the courts of various rulers, his relationship with authority was complex. At times, he praised rulers with unabashed flattery, and at other times, he critiqued them with sharpness. This duality showcased the intricacies of navigating the patronage system while maintaining a degree of independence. His panegyric for Saif ul-Dawla, a prominent medieval ruler, stands as a testament to his skill in capturing the grandeur of political power through poetic expression. Simultaneously, his sharp critique of the Abbasid Caliph al-Muqtadir demonstrates his willingness to challenge authority when he perceived injustice or moral decline. While al-Farazdak and al-Mutanabi lived in different centuries and navigated distinct historical contexts, their works share common themes and contribute to the broader cultural landscape of the Islamic Golden Age. Versatility and adaptability. Both poets demonstrated a remarkable versatility in their craft, adapting their poetic expression to various themes and genres. Al-Farazdaq's ability to seamlessly transition from eulogies to satire and moral reflections, and al-Mutanabi's exploration of diverse themes from political panegyrics to philosophical musings, showcase their adaptability and command over the Arabic language. Engagement with socio-political dynamics. The poetry of both al-Farazdak and al-Mutanabi engaged deeply with the socio-political dynamics of their respective eras. They navigated the complexities of courtly patronage, power struggles, and societal changes, offering poetic reflections that resonated with the concerns and aspirations of their audiences. Legacy of linguistic excellence. Both poets contributed significantly to the linguistic excellence of Arabic poetry. Al-Farazdaq's mastery in crafting eloquent eulogies and engaging in poetic duels, and al-Mutanabi's audacious use of language and intricate metaphors, elevated the standards of Arabic poetry. Their linguistic contributions became foundational to the development of the Arabic literary tradition. Reflections on ethics and justice. Both poets delved into moral reflections, addressing themes of justice, ethics, and the transient nature of worldly pursuits. Their verses provided not only aesthetic pleasure but also a moral compass, contributing to the ethical discourse within the broader Islamic intellectual tradition. The works of al-Farazdak and al-Mutanabi continue to resonate across centuries, serving as sources of inspiration for subsequent generations of poets, scholars, and enthusiasts of Arabic literature. Literary influence. The poetry of al-Farazdak and al-Mutanabi contributed significantly to the development of Arabic literary traditions. Their linguistic innovations, thematic explorations, and stylistic brilliance became touchstones for later poets. Chapter 5. Beyond Borders, the Global Impact of Ancient Arabian Poetry. The ancient poetry of Arabia, rooted in the rich oral traditions of Bedouin communities, has left an indelible mark on world literature and cultural expression. From the Mu'allaqat, the famed hanging poems, to the verses of pre-Islamic poets like Imru al-Qais and Antara ibn Shaddad, this poetic heritage has transcended time and space, influencing diverse literary traditions and shaping cultural expressions far beyond the Arabian Peninsula. In this exploration, we delve into the profound influence of ancient Arabian poetry on world literature, examining its impact on diverse cultures, linguistic traditions, and the broader human experience. The roots of influence lie in the intrinsic human connection to poetic expression and storytelling. Ancient Arabian poetry, with its rhythmic cadence, vivid imagery, and exploration of universal themes like love, war, and nature, resonated with the shared human experiences. The nomadic lifestyle, tribal structures, and challenges of the desert environment, as depicted in these poems, created a literary landscape that felt both exotic and relatable, capturing the imagination of diverse audiences. The oral tradition of ancient Arabian poetry played a pivotal role in its global dissemination. Bedouin poets, as the storytellers and praise singers of their communities, transmitted their verses through oral performances, ensuring the longevity of their cultural and literary heritage. As these poems were shared around campfires, in marketplaces, and during communal gatherings, they found their way into the collective memory of Bedouin tribes. This emphasis on oral transmission mirrored the broader global tradition of storytelling and oral poetry. As ancient Arabian poets shared their verses, they inadvertently contributed to a global tapestry of oral traditions, influencing the ways in which stories and poems were passed down through generations in various cultures. The Mu'allaqat, a collection of pre-Islamic poems, became a cultural treasure with a global impact. These hanging poems were highly revered and showcased on the walls of the Kaaba in Mecca, adding to their prestige. The Mu'allaqat served as a testament to the poetic prowess of Bedouin poets and became a source of fascination for scholars, poets, and enthusiasts worldwide. Translators and scholars from different cultural backgrounds sought to unravel the beauty and wisdom encapsulated in these verses. The Mu'allaqat, translated into various languages, became a bridge connecting different linguistic traditions, allowing readers and scholars from diverse backgrounds to appreciate the eloquence and cultural depth of ancient Arabian poetry. The influence of ancient Arabian poetry is particularly evident in the evolution of Islamic poetry. When Islam emerged in the 7th century, it found itself in a cultural milieu deeply rooted in the poetic traditions of the Arabian Peninsula. The linguistic excellence, thematic richness, and emotional depth of ancient Arabian poetry became a source of inspiration for Islamic poets. Poets like Hassan ibn Thabit and Ka'b ibn Zuhair, who embraced Islam, carried forward the tradition of pre-Islamic poetry while adapting their craft to express Islamic themes. The love for language, the exploration of nature, and the celebration of heroic deeds found continuity in Islamic poetry, providing a cultural link between the pre-Islamic and Islamic literary worlds. The translation movement during the Islamic Golden Age, particularly in the House of Wisdom in Baghdad, played a crucial role in transmitting the treasures of ancient Arabian poetry to Europe. As Arabic texts were translated into Latin and other European languages, the influence of Arabian poetic forms, themes, and linguistic nuances seeped into the European literary tradition. The courtly love tradition in medieval European poetry, with its emphasis on romantic themes and elaborate expressions of affection, bore echoes of the Arabic poetic tradition. The influence of Arabic poetry is evident in the works of troubadours in Provence and the courtly romances of medieval Europe, illustrating the enduring impact of ancient Arabian poetry on the development of European literary sensibilities. The cultural exchange during the Islamic rule in Spain, known as Al-Andalus, facilitated a significant exchange of literary and artistic ideas between the Arab Muslim and European Christian worlds. The impact of ancient Arabian poetry is particularly notable in Spanish literature, where the Mozarabic and Sephardic traditions absorbed the influence of Arabic poetry. Poets like Ibn Hazm and Ibn Zaydan, who lived during the Islamic rule in Al-Andalus, drew inspiration from the Arabic poetic tradition while creating their own unique contributions to the world of poetry. The muwashsha, a form of Arabic poetry with a strophic structure, also influenced the development of Spanish poetry, leaving an enduring mark on the linguistic and formal aspects of Iberian literature. The influence of ancient Arabian poetry extends to Persian literature, where poets drew inspiration from the Arabic tradition while infusing their works with Persian sensibilities. The ghazal, a poetic form celebrated by Persian poets like Hafez and Rumi, shares roots with the Arabic qasida and the themes of love and mysticism found in ancient Arabian poetry. Persian poets, enamored by the eloquence and emotional depth of ancient Arabian verses, incorporated elements of the Arabic poetic tradition into the vibrant tapestry of Persian literature. This cross-cultural exchange enriched both traditions, creating a harmonious blend that echoes through the pages of Persian poetry. The influence of ancient Arabian poetry permeates the poetic traditions of North Africa and the Middle East. In regions such as the Maghreb and the Levant, poets drew upon the linguistic grace and thematic breadth of Arabic poetry, contributing to the flourishing of local poetic expressions. The muwashshahat in Andalusian Arabic poetry found echoes in the zijal, a form of vernacular poetry, in North African and Middle Eastern traditions. The themes of love, nature, and societal reflections, inherited from ancient Arabian poetry, became foundational elements in the poetry. The transcendent beauty of ancient Arabian poetry has not been confined by linguistic or cultural borders. Rather, it has traversed boundaries through translations, adaptations, and inspirations, leaving an indelible mark on global literature and cultural expression. This exploration delves into the ways in which ancient Arabian poetry has been embraced, reimagined, and reinterpreted across different languages and cultures, fostering a cross-pollination of ideas and artistic sensibilities that resonates through the tapestry of human creativity. The first bridge connecting ancient Arabian poetry to the wider world is the act of translation. Translating poetry is a nuanced endeavor, as it involves not only rendering words from one language into another but also capturing the essence, cultural nuances, and rhythmic cadence that make poetry a unique form of expression. Ancient Arabic poems, rich in metaphor and cultural references, present a challenge and an opportunity for translators seeking to convey their beauty to non-Arabic speaking audiences. Prominent translators like Sir William Jones and Edward Fitzgerald, in the 18th and 19th centuries, respectively, played a crucial role in introducing English readers to the beauty of ancient Arabian poetry. Fitzgerald's translation of Omar Khayyam's Rubaiyat, although Persian rather than Arabic, exemplifies the transformative power of translation. His adaptation not only conveyed the philosophical depth of the original but also introduced a lyrical quality that resonated with English-speaking audiences, creating a poetic fusion that transcended linguistic boundaries. The mu'allaqat, often referred to as the hanging poems, have been a focal point of translation endeavors. These pre-Islamic masterpieces, written by various poets, including Imru al-Qais and Zuhair bin Abi Sulma, showcase the lyrical brilliance and thematic diversity of ancient Arabian poetry. Translators such as Charles Hamilton, Nabi Faris, and Desmond O'Grady have endeavored to capture the spirit of the mu'allaqat in English, French, and other languages, ensuring the preservation and dissemination of these poetic treasures. The challenge lies not only in the linguistic translation but also in conveying the cultural nuances, imagery, and emotional resonance inherent in the original verses. These translations serve as gateways, allowing readers from different linguistic backgrounds to appreciate the eloquence and depth of ancient Arabian poetic expression.